are back. You're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington. And joining me this evening is the one and only Mr. Kevin Durso. How are you, bud?
Much better than I was after trying to do post-game reaction last Friday.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing how quick things turn around.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting here 120 minutes later, and the Flyers have allowed 0 goals.
Well, and here's the thing too. Like, for people who don't understand where I'm coming from with that, Friday after the game, I hopped on 97.3, did a post-game spot. Sounded like I didn't enjoy the game I just watched.
It's tough too.
And did what I think is a ton of coach speak, I guess, because I made it sound like do this, do that, this is what's got to be fixed, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just on the station again a few minutes ago within the last half hour. They came back at about 10 of 6. So,
it's much easier to sound like a fan.
It's
much easier to get away from the coach speak.
No, but it's much easier to have better answers because,
absolutely.
Like, God, it was just so hard to do after game 2 when basically nothing went right. So what do you even say?
Right. At a certain point, you just have to burn the tape, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure Elaine Vigneault didn't. We talked about them going over a lot of video in practice on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But at this point, you burn the tape. It's gone. It's over. You've moved past it. Carter Hart is very good.
Well, did you like because you brought up the tape on Saturday morning kind of thing. Did you like the fact that while we probably were recording the last episode of YWT, that Carter Hart and the rest of the teammates were having contests to see who could hold their breath underwater the longest at the pool workout or something like that? Like, it was really funny.
Yeah.
That was really funny to hear that that's what they did on their day off the ice on Saturday.
You know what? You can't question it at this point.
No, you can't.
I mean, you
why?
might look at that and go, "Oh, really? That's what they're doing? They're not doing, some hard dog sprints." But again, you can't fault it because they come out and they score a quick goal on Sunday.
Yep.
And just kind of lock it down after that.
Didn't it feel like a bit of a carbon copy to an extent? I mean, they scored it almost about the exact same time. I mean, it was a minute and 10 seconds later, I think.
Yeah. And
it wasn't much.
But the difference is after that, they kept the foot on the gas a little more.
Yeah.
And they didn't turtle on Sunday.
No, I don't think so.
But they weren't playing nearly as much with the puck as they were today, Tuesday. Today looked a lot more like the team that went undefeated in the round robin.
Yeah, probably the closest effort to this point. And I think it's the forechecking. I think that's what it is. It was winning board battles. That was the best they've looked at winning board battles against Montreal the entire series to this point. And this is what they do. They work teams, and it was funny. After the game on Sunday, I was on 97.3 yesterday afternoon too. And I listened to them for the first half hour before I came on. And I heard this. I heard what is the age-old thing about when it comes to the 1-0 style game, that it's boring, and I understand it's boring.
But it wasn't boring.
But here's my thing about it.
And I get it.
But for anybody who has been with us the entire year, who has watched this team the entire season, and I know that sounds like an eternity ago, because I mean we're coming up on when training camp started. For this season.
Right. Is Sam Morin going to be ready? Like, we're getting close to that point. It's
yeah, kind of. But so here's the thing about it is it's a boring brand of hockey that works. That's the thing. This is their brand of hockey. This is what they do. And for people who are looking for where's the 4-1, 5-1 games that they kept having, what they do. They beat the Rangers a couple times like that. And
and then they did that in the round robin too.
But here's what it is. They play a 1-0 style game for 2 periods and wear the other team down, and then they score 3 goals in short order in the 3rd period, and it looks like a lopsided win.
Right.
A lot of times, how many times has that happened throughout
all
the year?
Season. All season long.
Now, it's not happening in this series, and there's 2 reasons for that. 1, space is limited because it is the playoffs, and 2, Carey Price. Carey Price is still very good. He hasn't had – the last 2 games – he hasn't played bad. Does he want the 2nd goal back today? Absolutely he does. But has he looked bad throughout? Not at all.
No, and at a certain point, you can't pin it on him when he allows 1 and 2 goals in back-to-back games after pitching a shutout in in game 2 on Friday.
Right.
At a certain point, it's not him.
That's a weird shutout for him because it doesn't feel as much like his shutout because when it was 2-0 before he faced a shot.
Right.
Like that's not his. He didn't keep it there.
Any goalie could have done what he did on Friday.
Carter Hart's 2 shutouts are more impressive because of the amount of time the game was at 1-0.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you that I would add how long it was 0-0, but that was
they scored so quickly.
But they scored so quickly. They scored 5-6 minutes into both games. So it was majority 1-0. One game it's entirely 1-0, and the other one it's 1-0 until the final 3 minutes of the second period.
Yep.
So he has to hold down that 1-0 lead, and the focus does go to him, especially the third period of game 3.
Right.
Third period of game 3, you're sitting on a 1-goal lead. It doesn't look like you're getting much of anything that's going to make it 2-0. Hold for the power play opportunities that you let get away in game 3. But beside the point, this will be a big time concern. It's still a concern, but it's still so much less of a concern when you've won a game. You win 2 games, you shut them out, and
winning solves everything.
Well, and here's the thing: it's still 3-0 or 3-1 in the series. It's still 3-1, and you can win. You have to win 1 game out of 3, and you're moving on.
Yeah, and I just don't want them to look past the team at this point. I don't want them to look at this Canadian team and go, okay, well, we just shut them out twice back-to-back. We avenged the 5-0 game. I don't want them to chalk that game up as the slip, right? Because other than that, you're looking at 2-1, 1-0, 2-0.
Well, let's go back.
If you look at that 5-0 game and look at that as, they were playing emotional because their coach left and blah, 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 and that's the slip. And now I don't want the Flyers to get comfortable because that's when you get caught.
But there's something to be said. Bill Meltzer tweeted something out a few moments ago that was great because he even said, go look at the number of goals allowed by the Flyers in I'll even throw the exhibition in for you. So 2, 1, 1, 1, then 1 again in game 1, 5, and then
4
nothing and nothing.
Pulled. Right.
No, but 5 and then nothing and nothing. So which one? And his answer to that was, which one's the outlier then? It's the 5 because that was the rarity.
1-0.
That was the one-off, and every other game has been. I even threw the exhibition in there because that was 2.
Right, and Carter Hart has probably been the best Flyer.
He's had to be for a good chunk of it. But
and we even talked on Saturday's show. We talked about the fact that of the 4 goals he allowed in game 2, at least 2 of them he had no chance on, and the other 2,
I thought,
and the other 2. Right. And the other 2, it's not unreasonable that he didn't make the save. So we're looking at a series where how many goals has Carter Hart allowed that were his fault? Between 0 and 1, depending on how you judge it.
Well, let's put it this way. The total number of goals he was in net for is 5. 1 in game 1 and 4 in game 2. And I don't really know if I found 1 in game 2 that he really should shoulder all the responsibility for.
No, definitely not.
No, and look at the one in game 1. Power play goal, puck shot out of a scramble in front of the net, and Shea Weber was there. Yeah, wide open net. Gee, which one of the 5 is he stopping?
Right. Absolutely none of them. And
he hasn't allowed a bad goal in the series.
And no goalie in NHL history would have stopped those.
And I say, hold on, and I say that, and then let's do that because he hasn't allowed a bad goal in the series yet.
I will knock on my fake IKEA wood desk. Absolutely. Right. But either way, again, you just said it. Carter Hart has not allowed a goal that's his fault. Well, we are now 4 games deep in this series. Who starts tomorrow?
This is easy. It's Carter Hart.
It has to be, right?
Well, and for nothing else other than
look at his workload.
He and here's the thing. I said yesterday when I went on 97.3, my answer to that question at the time was the only way he doesn't is if he has to stand on his head and makes 33, 35 saves in the process, but they're high difficult. He made 29 today.
29. Okay.
But that being said, in making 29,
how many did he have?
I didn't see many. I didn't see many dangerous ones. He made a few good ones, but I didn't.
Enormous credit to the defensive unit, by the way, because they have been playing phenomenal hockey over the last 2 games after really an abysmal game 2.
Well, and let's put it this way. I also gave that figure yesterday. Oh, if he makes 33, 35 saves and it's a heavy workload and he stands on his head. I was saying that thinking.
Maybe you go to Brian Elliott.
Well, no, but I'm saying that thinking, a 3-1 game, a 4-2 game. They win, or even a 3-2
in overtime, right?
Something like that, where he gets beat at some point, but he still does the job, and he has to hold the minute at the end.
But he's working and taking hits to his ego. And when's the last time Carter Hart took a hit to his ego? March.
Realistically, sure. I mean, it probably goes back further than that. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But this is the thing. I said that thinking, well, you can't expect what happened today, but you have to, assume that he's going to get scored on at some point, and if he has to hold
I don't know, can you?
Well, yeah, but
the way he's playing, can you assume somebody's going to score on him?
My point in saying that is that you had to, he would have had to have held them in the game. And the push in the third period, particularly, if Montreal's coming at you in waves in the third period, and it looks like the second period of game one,
Montreal would have had to tire him out.
Right. You really need to have him moving. I mean, for some of it, in the first period, did he even break a sweat?
In the game, did he break a sweat?
Well,
Montreal didn't really pour it on until the second half of the third period.
I think the second had a few moments in the beginning, but not as much. And I definitely think the second half of the third period, there was a little bit of a push, but I mean, they didn't even get Carey Price out of the net until the minute 25 left in the third period, down by 2. Yeah,
that was a little on the slow side.
Well, they were trying to kill off a penalty too, so I understand that.
I'm in favor of the aggressive goalie pull. The thought crossed my mind when Montreal went on the power play with about 6 minutes to go. The thought crossed my mind because I'm personally in favor of that kind of thing. I'm in that kind of Patrick Waugh camp.
And Kirk Muller has done some pretty radical things in running the bench, in terms of trying some things. He's mixed up lines at times, which, and I'm sure he's consulting with Claude Julien. I'm not saying that he's not that Claude Julien doesn't have his finger on the pulse
I'm sure
of the team now that he's home.
I'm sure somebody on the bench is wearing a headphone and talking to Claude Julien the whole game.
I don't know about that, but but they're talking to him in between for sure. So these line changes that they made going into this game didn't come from out of nowhere.
They weren't blind, right?
Kirk
Muller didn't make.
Kirk Muller said he talked to Claude Julien yesterday. So
and I imagine he's talking to him.
Figure it out. Yeah, right. They're talking strategy, but nonetheless. So you don't, I didn't know what kind of game Carter Hart was in for. Now that he's got this going right now, how do you not turn to him? You can't.
Have to.
And for nothing else other than at this point in time, and I said this on my spot yesterday on 97.3, if you win another, at that point in time, you'd already won a game 2-1 and 1-0. If you win another 1-0, 2-1 style game, and 2-0 feels pretty close to that.
It certainly does.
You're crushing this team's will.
Yeah.
Montreal's will has to be a little bit deflated, doesn't it? Because now you've played really good. Honestly, has Montreal played a truly bad game in a series? I don't think so. But
no, not really.
But they still haven't won. You come out of that thinking you're playing modestly well. You're not allowing tons of goals this team. So far, you've played this team in 4 games, and you're allowing a goal per game, and you've lost 3 games.
Montreal looks like a team that sold at the deadline, and the Flyers look like a team who added Derek Grant and Nate Thompson at the deadline. And by the way, how fantastic have those additions been?
Nate Thompson was one of the best players on the ice today, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's the truth. Because Nate Thompson, that line... You got to break
out that Nate Thompson graphic one of these days.
Not even for that, because he's not going to do that necessarily. I mean, he could sometimes. I'm not saying he can't, but that's not what he's expected to do. But to go in and put in the dirty work there, winning the battles in the corners. I mean, look at the plays toward the end, in middle of the third period. He's in the offensive zone, eating up valuable seconds that Montreal needs to try to get back into the game, and they can't get it away from him. And here's a guy who 2 weeks ago, people were thinking, or less than 2 weeks ago,
aren't going to make the lineup.
How about after Friday? After Friday, everybody wanted him out of the lineup.
I called for it.
Right.
I called for it on this show.
And I did too, because I said something about that's who I would pull out, but I said I'd leave him in because I didn't think Travis Konechny was suiting up on Sunday when we actually recorded. I thought he was missing a game.
Right.
And interestingly enough, Nick Aube-Kubel was out of the lineup today, and I don't think that had anything to do with performance. He blocked a couple of hard shots in game 3, and I think he's feeling them.
I think he was ready to take a day off. And you know what? If it was game 6 or game 7, I bet you he would have played.
But
that might have kept his legs fresh for maybe an appearance tomorrow. Maybe
sure.
That one extra day and a fresh pair of legs.
Well,
in a game like this, right? You're looking at game 5 on the second half of a back-to-back in a tight series.
And I generally would agree with you, except for the fact that everybody got the case with the first lineup change. James Van Riemsdyk came out. He was the lowest ice time of any forward in Game 3. Here comes Joel Farabee. And Joel Farabee was out there a lot more than James Van Riemsdyk was in Game 3. He played, I don't know exactly what his minute total is. I'll look it up really quick because I did just have the box score up. But it was much more significant. It had to be more than 10 minutes for Farabee because it felt like it. Yeah, 13-23. So he played a normal game workload for the line he was on.
He played a great game.
Yeah, so he was in expectedly.
Right.
Connor Bunnaman was probably in unexpectedly.
That was probably the Nico Kubel.
Right.
Asking for a day or whatever it was, them deciding to sit him and let him play tomorrow or whatever it is.
Except for the fact that I really loved his game today.
He played well.
Because I think he plays to that style. He's a go to the grinding areas of the ice, win the battles. He's got size. When he scores in the minor leagues, he scores a ton of his goals by being at the front of the net. He's a rebound guy at the front of the net. Right. So he knows his style is big body, be physical, win the battles. He's not going to wow you with skill. He can do it on an occasion, but he's not going to wow you with that. He's going to work hard. And in this series, what have you needed more than guys who are willing to show the will to go into the dirty areas and to do those things? Right. And he was today. I certainly you see that he's going in the lineup. You go, I don't know how that's going to work out, but let's see. Obviously, he's in there for a reason. And then all of a sudden, he's having one of the best games I think there was out of many of the forwards.
Right. And you know what?
And he didn't. And you know what? Did he play a lot? No, because I just looked at his ice time. He played 9:48, so he didn't play a lot.
And that's all you want out of him.
But that was a very noticeable 9 minutes and 48 seconds.
It was a fantastic 9:48. Yeah, he played a great game, and I think we might see an extra scratch or two tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're gonna see who's feeling maybe not 100%, because you're looking at this lineup and you just have people itching to come back in. And if somebody wants to take a game off, this is a pretty good game to do it.
Right? I hear you, and I do hear what you're saying.
But the alternative there is that if you win, you just have 4 days off.
Well, exactly. And I see, this is the thing too. This hasn't been an easy series, obviously. This has been 4 really.
Even though it's 3-1, it's a close series.
Well, and take out game 2.
Yeah.
But games 1, 3, and 4 that you've won have all been tight.
Yep.
And it's been that way throughout. In my mind, I want to go out there tomorrow and finish this thing off and be done with this team.
4-0, some big, right.
Well, not even, and I don't care how you win it. I just want to go out there and win it.
That's
fair. I'm done with this. So I'm done with this matchup.
Right.
And then this way I can turn my attention to somebody else and granted, what matchups are currently, looking the Flyers in the face if they move on.
They look at the Islanders.
And the Islanders are going to be a kind of similar team. Now, the Islanders, the key difference with the Islanders is they have more skill players than Montreal does. Way more, or at least more experienced skill players.
That's fair.
Because Barzal's not a rookie. And, Barzal's not Nick Suzuki and Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Right.
They're young. They're not going to be perfect. And they're going to showcase the skill, but they're not going to do it on a consistent basis because they're rookies. It's, Barzal's going to be the all-star that we know he is, and Andersley is an experienced vet, and Brock Nelson is an experienced vet, and those are going to be guys who know what they're doing in a playoff series. But
they don't scare me.
Well, no, but see, I do expect the Islanders to not play nearly the same exact style because there will be more open space because they have more speed.
Well, and also let's who would you rather have, Montreal's defense or the Islanders' defense?
I'd have to look at everybody on the Islanders' defense. Boychuk is good, but he's aging, and honestly, you don't know if he's going to be in the lineup all the time because he has been toying with injuries throughout the year. Pulak I like. Pelech has been valuable for them. Other than that, I'm not really sure there's anybody else who truly stands. Andy Green does not worry me.
Wait, do they have any player in their defensive core as good as Shea Weber?
Probably not as good as Shea Weber. But
how about Jeff Petrie?
I think I could. Boychuk is good. You know who I think is really, and I forgot to mention him, but he's a rising guy. Devon Taves has been really good.
Devon Taves is good.
And Devon Taves gives me a bit of a Petrie vibe.
Okay, but I don't think he's there yet. Okay, now whose goaltending would you rather have, Montreal's or the Islanders?
Well, I'd rather have Montreal's because of the resume that Carey Price has. That being said, I think Varlamov has played very well. He has
had a fantastic season.
And to the point, like that's the Islanders' style. I mean, the Islanders kill you with goaltending and defensive play,
right?
And don't mind if you're playing in a low-scoring game. That's the same thing. But they've played in some high-scoring games throughout the year. Right. They can get into it. They can get into a shootout too. They can get into one of those offensive shootout style games where everybody's just scoring left and right.
Sure, but I'm just looking at this and I'm breaking it down. And defensively, I think Montreal is a better team than the Islanders. I think goaltending wise, obviously, we talked about Carey Price's resume versus Semyon Varlamov's current season. Barry Trotz gets a better result out of that team than Claude Julien seems to get in Montreal, as evidenced by the standings. But overall, I can't really say definitively that the Islanders are all that much better than Montreal.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and I don't want to look too far ahead. Obviously, because we're not there yet. But
we can have this conversation a little bit.
Sure. I'd rather break it down further this weekend when we know.
Fair. You're right.
But I do want to talk. Like, here's what I will say. You're looking at the potential of, like you said, that's probably the matchup that's awaiting you, but without trying to go too far ahead on it. But that's probably the matchup that's awaiting you because of the fact that is a team that's up 3-0 in their series.
Right.
They need one more win, and Washington's got to go on that kind of run. And you know what I'm talking about, people out there listening. You know what I'm talking about. If we're trying to have flashbacks to 2010 with this series that we're watching right now, which, by the way, was also a 3-1 after 4 games. And who won Game 5 of that series? Just saying. But I'm looking for all the good vibes today, Kyle. I'm looking for all of them. We're having a good time.
The Flyers are up 3-1, and very likely, knock on wood,
right,
advancing.
And
you're allowed to be excited.
Well, and here's the thing.
Carter Hart looks spectacular.
And
spectacular.
Well, we can try to downplay the hypotheticals because we don't want to get too far ahead. You can't change what's in front of you, which is a 3-1 series lead. This is the closest the Flyers have been to advancing in the playoffs
since 2012.
Since 2014 when they were in a Game 7.
Oh, that was the Rangers, wasn't it?
Right, but that was the Rangers. But see, that thing with that series is, did you ever really feel like they were actually going to win that series at times? I mean, maybe on a rare occasion.
Until Jason Atkinson took that double minor high stick.
And that was way back in Game 1.
Was that in Game 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a close – they scored first. The Flyers had a 1-0 lead, and it was 1-1 third period, and that's when the whole game turned upside down.
That double minor was awful. Awful.
The only way I'll say I believe that they may have had a shot was because the Game 6 before that, I think Wayne Simmons had a hat trick.
Yeah.
And it was maybe they have just turned – I mean, the problem that I always
– They might be able to put one together here. Game 7, anything can happen.
The problem that I have with that, like looking at that series like that, is that we all knew where they had to go to play Game 7, and we knew that they had a history of not playing as well in that particular building.
No,
and that was what felt like the long shot more than anything. By the way, ironically enough, when's the last time the Flyers had 3 wins in a single playoff series? Which was 2014. The coach on the other bench
was it Alain Vigneault? Oh man. Oh, it's good to have
but it is. But in truth, like, you had the right answer the first time. This is as close as they've been to actually winning a playoff series since 2012.
Right.
It's been 8 years. We've been sitting here waiting for 8 years. I even said that probably even in 2014, because I knew this was the case in 18 and 16. Probably even in 14. When was the last time they were the favorite in a series?
Let's wind it back even further. When's the last time you thought the Flyers were this good? Was it in 2010? Because I certainly didn't think that team was this good. That team was bad. Go look at that roster.
Right.
Oof.
Now, do you know, I think the answer is still 2012, because in 2012, and granted, here's something interesting about it. They came in as the lower seed on Pittsburgh in that series, because games 1 and 2 were in Pittsburgh. But the way that they got out of that series at that moment, not to mention they also had flashes throughout the year where they were really good at times. I mean, that was, the Giroux, Jágr, Hartnell line was excellent.
Oh, that line was fun.
And then you had rookie Sean Couturier, Danny Briere, You know, like there was enough talent, and defensively, even without Chris Pronger, you had Chemo Timonen, you had a whole, you know, a slew of other guys that were still there too. From that, I think Matt Carl was still there.
Poor Braden Coburn.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's
on the top
now.
pair. Like a lot, he spent a lot of that season on the top pair.
Yeah,
and also, who's your goalie? Oh wait, he's hurt. Who's your backup goalie? Oh wait, he's hurt. Who's your third goal?
I mean, yeah,
it felt like
they were still
goalies last season.
It was bad. Were still no, it wasn't. That year was Brizgalov and Bobrovsky.
The
year before that,
future Vezina winner.
The year before that, they were still going to. They were still the year before that. They were still going to the well with Michael Leighton at times.
Michael Leighton, former record holder for NHL saves in a game, I believe. Before Alex Lyon passed him.
No, he still has it.
Oh, he still has it.
He had not. Alex Lyon
didn't pass him. Okay,
yeah, and Leighton had 98. Ridiculous.
Insane.
I know.
Insane. How many did Korpisalo have in game one?
Oh, goodness.
I think it was like 84.
They finished with 90 shots. I think so. It was 87.
87, something like that. I think the former record 84. Did Kelly Hrudey have 84?
I don't remember exactly when they said he passed. It was close. It was like 82, something like that.
But either way, Flyers are up 3-1 tomorrow night. So we think Carter Hart's going to be in. Do you foresee any lineup changes, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
I don't know. It's really tough. Oh, so hold on a minute.
Because AV did tinker between game 3 and game 4, even though it, quote, wasn't broke.
Yeah, let me see some, because I didn't really get a whole because I'm getting some stuff from Flyers PR right now as we speak. And let me see here, because I wanted to read something, because I'm trying to see if there's anything in here, because it sounds like Alain Vigneault basically said Carter Hart's going to be in net tomorrow night. But
he did.
Well, he didn't say. He alluded to it. I think he's saying like Carter's a huge part of this. We're not playing perfect hockey, without a doubt. When we do make mistakes, he's been able to get that big save for us.
And you know what, Brian Elliott's a mature enough backup that we're not going to hear a peep out of him.
Right. I mean,
he knows. He probably wants the ring more than anybody on the team. Right.
Sure. Well, so here's where I'm trying to go with this. So here's the. This is pretty incredible. So, per NHL stats and information, Carter Hart is the second youngest goalie in NHL history to record back-to-back shutouts in the playoffs, and just the fourth different goaltender and fifth occasion to do so under the age of 23.
Peters was one of them, right?
No, because we're not talking Flyer goalies. We're talking all goalies. So it was mentioned the last time this happened was 1994.
94.
You know what was funny? Right at the top of the show, right before we actually really started, we mentioned the Steve Dangle intro, right?
We did.
Steve Dangle makes a reference to this goalie in that intro.
Oh, is it Felix Potvin?
It's Felix Potvin. No, it's Felix Potvin. Felix Potvin did it.
Felix Potvin.
Later on at age 22. He was rapidly closing in on his 23rd birthday by that point. 2 times. Wow, and this is really impressive. Now, and granted, legendary goalie from a completely different era. Terry Sawchuk did it twice in his at 22, separated by maybe about 20 days.
Hey, so I'm not kidding. Asking for a friend, has a goalie ever done it 3 times in a row?
I will look into that in a minute.
As I'm reading through 3 times in 4 days.
By the way, so Carter Hart at 22 years old and 5 days is the second youngest. The youngest, which he was never going to come close to, unfortunately.
Was this Matt Murray?
No. No, because this happened. The only younger one than this happened in the 1944-45 season.
Oh.
So, yeah, Detroit Red Wings, Harry Lumley did it at 18. Yes, everybody remembers
Harry
that.
Lumley. Everyone remembers
years old.
Harry Lumley.
But my point being, in saying that, this doesn't happen a lot for a goalie who's this young.
I wonder if he did it at 18 because they didn't wear masks and goalies retired at, 22.
Okay, hang on a minute. So let's go back to the other thing about Flyer goalies for a minute.
Okay.
It's only the 3rd time this has happened, back-to-back playoff shutouts in Flyers history. The other 2 are Bernie Parent in the 1975.
One from Bernie and one from Ron Hextall?
No, so Bernie Parent in the 1975 quarterfinals against Toronto, games 2 and 3. Okay. And the other one also came against the Montreal Canadiens.
Ooh.
And it was Michael Leighton in 2010, games 1 and 2.
How does Michael Leighton have every weird goaltending stat ever?
I know. It sounds ridiculous.
I swear we did not know that when we started this conversation.
No, do you know what? I know we've been trying to not downplay, but we sat there and said, oh, you know what? Like, Carter Hart's got the back-to-back shutouts, but the team played really well in front of him, like with the defensive side of things. Here's a great one for you. The Flyers are the first team to lead a 7-game series after 4 games while only scoring 5 goals. So I guess when you're not getting help and your goaltender has got back-to-back shutouts and you've only scored 5 goals, you got 3-1 series lead and you haven't scored more than 5 goals. That's incredible. Here's a great – it says in 2018, Vegas swept the LA Kings, scoring only 7 goals.
Oh, that series was crazy. Okay, so speaking of these goals, I do actually want to talk about the goals that were scored today.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Because Michael Raffl, my goodness – Did you know he had that shot in his arsenal?
You know what? I'm not saying I don't know that he's had that shot. He did pick the corner, and it's one of the only ways that you beat Carey, and that's one of the only ways you beat Carey Price.
Although on that angle that I saw, it sure looked like a lot of that far side was open. He picked the corner, but I don't know if he necessarily had to.
You don't know that, though, because here's the thing.
It's Carey Price.
Carey Price gives you the space, makes you think it's there, and then takes it away.
I have never seen a puck hit the corner that perfectly. It looked like, you know, the Dell screensaver where it bounces, where it hits the corner
and pops right back down. It hit the corner. Yeah. The last time I can remember a shot like that, or at least from my recollection, I'm sure it's happened other times too in the season for the Flyers, but Phil Myers had one against Toronto in the year that was like that went in, out that quickly.
Yeah, that was one of those ones that rattled around. You weren't sure it went.
Right, you didn't even know it was in there, and it was out that quickly. It sounded like it hit the post.
And speaking of Phil Myers.
Yeah, well, you know what? Phil Myers had a goal. This is really interesting. He had a goal against Carey Price in November. That was like this. He just turned around and threw it at the net. It went in, and it didn't go in that one went in much more cleanly than this one did. This looks like it's going wide.
This was directly Carey Price.
This was going wide, and he puts his arm out and knocks his arm
out there. It hits the inside of the pad, boop, right, and then
right the hole. Yep. And I will tell you right now, it caught me off guard.
Me too.
I saw
Jim Jackson off guard.
Right, I saw it going to the net, and I'm like, that looked harmless. Whoa, holy crap! What a leaky goal that was. You know, there it was, and I even as I was starting to type out all the stuff on socials, you know, mine at Flyerdelphia during the game, like I am.
It's behind you on the board.
Yeah, it's behind me, and there's something else behind me.
At Kevin_there. We'll talk about that,
which we will talk about. Yeah. But besides, so I'm going over there, and I actually said to myself out loud as I'm going there it was. That's the one that when you just throw it on net enough times, one can beat him like that. You can get one of those lucky breaks, and there it was. Phil Myers takes that shot.
Nobody's perfect, not even Carey Price.
Right. Well, you know, and then we look at the other guy, you know.
He's getting there.
How'd the other goaltender do? Like I said, he's out-dueling Carey Price. He's actually out-dueling Carey Price.
We talked before this series began. We did a little bit of playing up of the student versus mentor thing. And boy – students looking good.
So the funny thing about that to me is we played it up and then we wanted to downplay it because we said, oh, that's not the series though. The series is not Carter Hart against. Well, and this was the thing. This is what they all told us. It's not Carter Hart against Carey Price. It's the Flyers against the Canadians, and they wanted it to be that way.
But
and
it's not.
Has it really turned out to be? It really
sure
has
Carey
been
Price
focused
versus
on
Carter Hart.
Well, and here's the thing. I will say it to that set, to the sense of Carey Price has not stolen the one game that Montreal has won in the series. Like we said earlier.
No, he didn't need it.
He wasn't solely responsible for that win.
Michael Leighton could have gotten that win.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have been a shutout win, but I think he would have gotten that
win. It was
win.
Michael Leighton in the playoffs. It might have been a shutout win.
Well, if it was, at that point in 2010, sure. At that point in 2010, sure. But, Carter Hart has played as well as advertised. And you know what? I just something that I had just thought of as we were talking about it here and things like that. Remember that narrative that went on in the regular season about him?
The fact not winning on the road?
Well, the fact that he just played what counts as 2 road games and has 2 shutouts.
everything along those lines has a giant asterisk on it. That's not
well, true.
Not a particularly fair statement.
But no, it's not a fair statement. What I'm trying to get at with that is that it's not the color of the jersey, okay? It's not because the Montreal Canadiens were wearing red and the Flyers were wearing white that he didn't look as good as normal, you know?
No, and we have heard a little bit about the goalies love these sight lines, not having fans.
Yeah, no,
a lot of the goalies have talked about it being a huge boon to the defensive game and the goaltending game.
And that's where Carter Hart looks like Carey Price so much in this series is if it's clean, if he can see it, he's probably stopping it.
I don't care how good the numbers get in Canada. We just need to make sure we keep fans out forever here. Like, I don't care how good the numbers get. Edmonton, don't consider letting fans in for the Eastern Conference Finals. Don't do it.
Well, and you know what?
Keep Carter Hart nice and happy.
I mean, you know what? Well, here's the they will. They will keep
I know. I'm joking.
But
they're locked in there.
There's going to be a part to Carter Hart that would want it later on. You know, like this is what has to be done now. But give me the playoff crowd. You know, I think he wants that. He lives for that. You know, I mean, this is a guy who played in World Junior Gold Medal games for Canada,
and even bigger than that, played in outdoor games for Team Canada,
right?
With massive
crazy crowd. And
Carter Hart's got plenty of pressure under the bright lights.
Sure, he does. Absolutely, he does.
And after watching him for 3 games, because I'm going to give him an absolute mulligan on game 2 between how he played nothing around them and blah, blah, blah. He gets a pass for game 2. The rest of the team,
sure he does.
Not so much. Well, Carter Hart gets a pass for game 2. And as far as I'm concerned, he's played 3 phenomenal hockey games. He's allowed a total of 1 goal.
Yeah,
it's hard to lose playoff games when you allow 1 goal over the course of 3 games.
Well, I think that, like, I went and looked this up the other day. Goals against average in terms of goalies who actually have started more than 2 games in the playoffs so far.
He's still there.
He's 1 and 2 with Carey Price. Like,
even
he's
with
either 2 to Carey
start.
Price, or he's going to be by now. He might be number 1.
He'll probably be 1 now because Price led in 2.
I mean, I'm sure the save percentage is getting up there too. I mean, the only guy who had and let's put it this way, skewed number. The only guy who had a higher save percentage than Carey Price or Carter Hart in the playoffs with more than 2 starts was Korpisalo, because you saw a shot volume that was ridiculous.
Right. Because the team is bad and he's
because you played, like, at that point in time, Korpisalo would have played what? I guess 7 games last night, might have been 2 nights ago might have been the 8th.
Right.
Or whatever. But to that point, you had played 7 games that were realistically 8.5 games.
Right.
Insane. You know, like because you add 5 periods to, you know, or 4.5 overtimes to it, then, you know.
Absolutely.
Your numbers get skewed a little bit, and you make 80-something saves on 90 shots. That's that's absurd.
Right. All right, here. I think that'll just about do it for our conversation here. Give me a prediction for tomorrow.
Ooh, predictions.
Yeah, I mean,
I love them.
You know what? I think Montreal pushes, and I think the Flyers respond in kind. I think this game is 4-3 in overtime.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm going to get a little bit of high scoring in here.
I saw something today, and I'm going to refer to it when I preview the game tomorrow. Carey Price's numbers this year, when he starts both ends of back-to-backs.
Oh, they're bad, aren't they?
His numbers in the second game are not good. This, and let's do it this way, that's not a question either. He's starting too, because your playoff life is on the line now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to him every single game.
We didn't even bring it up because it's that.
Right.
Yeah,
well, because he's going to play. And if he's going to play, my thing is get the shot volume. If you can get the shot volume, get some rebounds around him, maybe, you know, I don't know who – I think it was mentioned on the broadcast at one point in time. Does Montreal have the depth outside of what's in the lineup to then be able to throw somebody in who can do the work that, say, a Connor Bunnaman did today?
Nope.
Probably not, especially
and that's what I meant. That's what I meant when I said earlier that you might see some guys take a day that might not necessarily take a day because the Flyers have that option.
Who's the number 1 or not number 1? Who's the number 7 defenseman for Montreal?
He's a lot worse than Shane Gostisbehere.
And please don't tell me, like, because the name is coming to mind for me because I look at their list of scratches.
Is it Jordy Ben?
That's not a bad one. I didn't. Jordy Ben.
No, he's in the lineup. No, he's gone, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's gone.
He's gone. They sold him at the deadline because they were sellers.
I mean, it might be Cale Fleury, but it also, Christian Folan's sitting there.
It's not anybody good. The long story short here, it's somebody who was getting scratched in Lehigh Valley.
Right. And I mean, do I think that they can make an improvement up front?
If you put Ryan Poehling in tomorrow, then I think you're making an improvement to the Montreal lineup.
I think you're probably going to see him because there's no.
But I do think you're making an improvement, and I would take somebody like for them, I'd take somebody like Jake Evans out or Belzile.
Somebody who just hasn't
somebody like that, someone on that fourth line, and Poehling's got some of that offensive ability. He actually brings something to the lineup that I go, yeah, I'd watch him because he's got talent, he's got potential, and he can do something in this series, especially if they the turnovers today were a lot fewer and farther between. There wasn't really there wasn't exactly a Scott Lawton or two Scott Laughtons.
Scott Lawton had a poor game, by the way. He had a couple of.
He had a couple. You know what I think about at least in game 4 for Scott Lawton? I think he had a more invisible game.
That's fair.
Which was disappointing.
Yeah, I'd like to see him bounce back tomorrow.
That whole line didn't, it was an interesting combination. It did not do a whole hell of a lot for me.
Right.
The Giroux, Grant, Lawton line, that didn't do a whole hell of a lot for me.
No, but I did like seeing AV mix it up, and I think
But I liked the Konechny, Hayes, and Farabee line. Thought that looked good.
Yeah, that was great.
I liked obviously the fourth line, or was it the fourth line? Really, I mean, at times it didn't feel like it.
No,
I thought Couturier and Raffl looked good together.
They did.
I mean, Couturier set him up.
That goal. Yeah.
So that helped. So I thought that they looked good. I just don't know what to do about that other grouping, at all. That felt like the outlier of the group because at least the other three lines had something going. I thought that the second one had some moments. Couturier's line obviously had some moments. They scored a goal, and the fourth line carried you through the dirty work of it. They did a lot of that hard work, and Giroux had chances. He definitely passed up on one shot on a power play.
Yeah, he sure did.
Just saying, you got to take them.
He's done that consistently since they've been in the bubble, and I'm not a fan of it.
Well, and did you hear what Bill Clement said after that too? That he looks like he doesn't have the confidence in his shot, which we don't understand why, because he's got it. We know he
got
does.
it. We know he does.
But boy, he must not have confidence in it because why is he passing it up? He wants to pass every single time he has it.
Yep.
And that's a scary thought. But
like you said, we're looking at line combinations, and if you have an idea what you think the Flyers should do with their line combinations, you can send us those combos on Twitter at YWT Podcast. It's all on the board behind Kevin. He's at Kevin_Durso, at Flyerdelphia during games, at Sports Talk PHL. You can find his articles and the show at sportstalkphilly.com. And before we get out of here, I did want to mention that other hashtag you got up there.
Yeah, that was that came out right at warm-ups too. So I was looking into, because right at warm-ups, I don't know this for a fact. I assume Gord Miller had the call on NBCSN.
And in case any of our listeners missed the news and haven't heard yet, Dale Hawerchuk passed away at the age of 57 from cancer today.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to take a moment and send our condolences out to his friends and family and to the entire Winnipeg Jets organization and every other organization he played for, honestly.
Yeah. So it came out right around warm-ups, and I think Gord Miller was tweeting out stuff about the lineups. So that we got right away, warm-up start. He must have been calling the game today on NBCSN, and that's when the JVR's not out there. Farabee is. Okay.
Yeah, and that was a big news.
That was and we're focusing on that. We're going, oh, look, we got big lineup news in this game. And then next thing I know, there was the tweet from his son, Eric, who has been on leading the brigade of updates on Dale Hawerchuk throughout this process. And there it was. And it was everybody else pretty much chimed in right away after it. But this is a guy who, I mean, if your earliest memories of this team, and I think Kyle, you and I are in the same boat in terms of the earliest memories we have of the Flyers.
You get a little bit of Dale Hawerchuk.
No, but then you're thinking of that 97 team and Dale Hawerchuk's on it,
Yep, for sure.
And there you go. So
that motley crew.
And that was the tail end of a Hall of Fame career that was well deserved. He had 518 career goals. He had 1,400 points. He was definitely a high end player offensively.
He goes down as an absolute legend.
Probably the superstar player for the original Winnipeg Jets.
For sure.
To turn into the Phoenix Coyotes. Still a solid, successful career in Buffalo too, and then the last stop in Philadelphia for a little while.
Very possibly a top 10 winger of all time.
It could be. I mean, he had some really good,
definitely in the conversation.
And there were times where I don't remember if it was pre or post, but there were times when if the Legion of Doom wasn't working sometimes, or if they separated them for any reason, or someone was out of the lineup, you've got Dale Hawerchuk on the line with John LeClaire and Eric Lindros.
Yeah.
And it worked, obviously, because Dale Hawerchuk was such a good player. So,
yeah, he sure was.
It was sad news, though, because I think it couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 weeks ago, if that the update was out there that his cancer was back and he was going through more of a battle, and everybody was trying to say pull through. And I think I wrote it down on the board because not only is he a former Flyer, but I think it's fitting in this time when we've all sat here and for the entire year have been Oscar Strong, and
cancer sucks, man.
I know, by the way, something that we didn't really get the chance to get into when we recorded on Saturday, that he gets back on the ice and there's that source of inspiration that the Flyers get.
That was amazing.
And
that was some amazing.
But we've been saying that all year. And here's a Hall of Fame player who obviously has gone way too soon now. I mean,
definitely.
That's just, he should be doing something else. And I think he had coached for a time and he had a career in front offices or something like that. Like, he definitely was always around. He can probably sit there and say lifetime member of some form in the game of hockey.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he always had some involvement in some way. I think he was involved in scouting for Winnipeg or something like that. But they were, something else that makes sense now is Winnipeg had a couple press conferences and their GM got very emotional talking about him. And I think maybe now there's more context to that because I guess even then they knew he probably wasn't doing so well. Yeah. And so it's just a shame that it happened this soon, that we heard about it from that update that it was back to, he's gone now. So
cancer sucks.
It's a sour way to end this show because we've been having fun with it. Obviously, like, it's great. The Flyers are up 3-1 in a series, but
you know what? Dale Hawerchuk deserves it.
And it was
if
really
the end
nice
of our show is quote unquote ruined. Then Dale Hawerchuk deserves to be that person. And it's not ruining it at all.
No, I don't think it's ruining it either. And you know what? It was really cool that they had a quick turnaround on 30 minutes before the game starts. We're finding that news out, and they've got a moment.
They got a graphic. They got a moment of silence. They got it all.
That's great to do. Like, get that in there. That was
the NHL
awesome.
came through first game of the day, and they got.
I don't know.
They got it.
I don't know that there's anything that's going on in the last month or so that the NHL hasn't come through with. They've done a great job with this.
Well, so we're gonna
hopefully,
and we're gonna hope that the Philadelphia Flyers do a great job with Game 5 tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
So hopefully next time we're back on here, whenever that may be. Hopefully, well, first of all, we're hoping it's in it will be Sunday in our regular time slot. Yep. But hopefully we're talking about a preview of the next series, and we're trying to figure out who they're playing, and that there's not too many games. I mean, the good news about what you were talking about with the Islanders too, and the fact that looks like who they might play, isn't it nice that, like, if Washington is eliminated at some point here, then at worst Tampa Bay and Boston have to go against each other.
That would be nice.
And that's going to be a beatdown of a series. It is. And
we got to cut this off here somewhere. We can't start talking about other series.
No, we're not talking about other series today.
You want to hear us talk about
the Flyers game?
If you want to hear us talk about other series, you'll have to download Sunday's episode. That'll be the new one. We're getting out of here. Goodbye, everybody.